kinabukasan. Hindi magagapi ang kalaban sa iisang araw lamang. Meron naman tayong talino, tapang at yaman, pero bakit lagi na lang tayong talo sa laban? Ugaling kanya-kanya, doon tayo nasisira. Kilala natin ang kalaban, pero mas kilala tayo nila. Wow, atakin lang tayo, yan ang kanilang plano. Hanggang tayo na mismo at magtatalo-talo. Pinamumunuan na tayo ng mga kurap. Pinipigilan na maabot ang bawat pangarap. Kung hindi ka masawa sa pasakit at hirap, tuloy mo lang ang pagsuporta sa mga panggap.
Alright! Yan, magandang araw mga kabatas natin at welcome sa isang mga livestream. Mga kabatas natin, lahat ng kanta natin yan nasa Musikatorni. Meron yan sa YouTube, meron sa Spotify, meron sa Apple Music, lahat ho ng streaming platforms, meron pa yung mga kantang yan. Tapos nakagawa ko ng mga bagong kanta, hindi ko pa lang na-upload. Nakita nyo yung bagong ginawa ko, yung reggae, diba? Tungkol sa age of sexual consent. Ngayon naman mga kabatas natin, tignan nyo, nakakatuwa pag isa-search nyo, no? Itong si Kiko Barzaga. Ang unang lalabas dito, Representative Kiko Barzaga on the House floor after his 60-day suspension. Tapos, ito yung una, pinakataas. Tapos susunod, Kiko Barzaga suspended for 60 days anew. Tapos dito sa baba, Kiko Barzaga reacts to second 60-day suspension order by the House. Ang galing, di ba? Sunod-sunod yan. It all happened in one day. One day. Tignan nyo, mamatas natin ha. Tignan mo na. TMA News. Nakita nyo siya. Siya yan. Tignan yung babati sa kanya. Si Puno. Ay, yan si Puno.
Labansan. Laro.
Plastikan. Ako yung magna-narrate na parang no, yung pag-narration ni Kiko Barzaga, 'di ba? Kapag binibidyo niya itong first son na si Sandro Marcos. Ito, maglalakad siya. Yan, parating na si Kiko Barzaga. Umupo sa kanyang upuan. Nakita niya yung kanyang dating katropa na si Puno. Plastikan, turuan. Tumingin sa kanyang oras para alamin kung ilan pa ang natitirang panahon bago siya ulit palayasin. Plastikan, usap-usap, plastikan. Tawa-tawa ka ngayon, mamaya suspended ka ulit.
Legaspi.
Ayun, ito rin. Kunwari, hindi alam yung mga susunod na mangyayari. Minagic ni Puno na wala ulit si Barzaga.
Leviste. Libayan.
Usap.
Gloria.
Usap. Okay, zoom out na. Tapos, pagkatapos niyan, thanks.
Madam Speaker, the Committee on Ethics and Privileges Secretariat received on January 28, 2026, a referral from the House Plenary of the privileged speech of Representative Rolando M. Valeriano delivered on 27 January 2026, and the interpellations thereon relative to Representative Francisco A. Barzaga's conduct during the period of his 60 days suspension on the adopted findings and recommendations as contained in Committee Report number 28 dated 1 December 2025, on Committee Case number 3 entitled Representative Puno et al. Versus Representative Barzaga of the 4th District of Cavite.
Diba? Yun yung nagkaso sa kanya, yun pa yung nag-welcome remarks sa kanya nung dumating siya.
of the transcript of the privileged speech consists of 10 pages, including the transmittal from the Deputy Secretary General, Legislative Operations Department. The matter was docketed as committee case number 12. The privileged speech alleged that Representative Barzaga flagrantly violated Section 141 or Rule 20 of the Rules of House of Representatives when he continuously defied the stern warning issued by the House upon the imposition of the penalty of suspension upon him on December 1, 2026, when he, during the period of suspension, continued posting in his social media accounts the following malicious content as follows. NUP congressmen received bribes from Enrique Razon in various gatherings in Soler prior to 2025 election in exchange for supporting Speaker Martin Romualdez. Congressman Romeo Acop's death will not stop him from facing justice. He must be investigated for involvement in the flood control corruptions. Corruption and plunder against the Filipino people is a sin against the Lord. Congressman Romeo Acop is now suffering through external damnation. He has left the comfort of his luxurious mansion in exchange for a pit of external hellfire. That is the fate of all corrupt politicians. During the interpellation of Representative Tanuatco, Rep. Valeriano stressed that Representative Barzaga was sternly warned that a repetition of similar misconduct would merit more severe sanctions from the House of Representatives. He therefore urged the Committee on Ethics and Privileges to investigate the continuous violations of Rep. Barzaga of the House rules and to impose further suspension from office against Rep. Barzaga. Representative De Lima, on the other hand, clarified whether Representative Valeriano would like the Committee on Ethics to hear and try new allegations or continue from the previous case. In response, Rep. Valeriano left the matter to the discretion of the committee for appropriate action. Thereafter, the House of Representatives in plenary ordered the committee to, number 1, conduct a hearing in its next scheduled meeting and conduct a thorough assessment on the conduct of Rep. Barzaga during the period of suspension of the adopted findings and recommendations as contained in Committee Report 28. 2, require the respondent Barzaga to appear in the hearing of the committee. And 3, immediately report to the House of its findings and recommendations after such hearing. Pursuant to the order of the House and the referral of the privileged speech, a meeting was then called by the chairperson, setting a hearing on the matter on February 3, 2026 at 1 p.m. with notice to the respondent and the complainants. Representative Barzaga was furnished with a copy of the referral of the transcript of the privileged speech and its interpellations with a directive to personally appear before the committee to present evidence to the contrary, with warning that failure to appear thereon will be considered a waiver of the right to a hearing to present evidence and conduct cross-examination, if any. During the conduct of the hearing on the matter, the committee noted that the 60-day suspension of Representative Barzaga expired on January 30, 2026. While serving his suspension, however, the committee took note that Rep. Barzaga committed similar acts for which he was sanctioned. The committee members were in agreement to consider the acts of Rep. Barzaga during the period of 60-day suspension to be a continuing violation subject of a prior disciplinary action which the committee have decided upon its Committee Report 28 dated December 1, 2025. Specifically, the committee were in agreement that jurisdiction to conduct hearing anew on the subsequent similar acts were reacquired by the committee upon the order of the House of Representatives expressly directing the committee to conduct a hearing to assess the conduct of Rep. Barzaga during the period of his suspension pertaining to Committee Report 28. Hence, the committee decided to consider the referred privileged speech not as a separate and independent matter, but a continuation of prior misconduct as ordered by the House of Representatives. Thereafter,
Ni-railroad din eh, oh. Ni-railroad, dire-diretso eh.
during the deliberations, Rep. Valeriano sponsored his privileged speech invoking that Respondent Barzaga committed serious violations during his 60-day suspension and presented his case before the committee. Respondent Barzaga, however, was not in attendance and was considered by the committee to be in default. After exhaustive deliberation of the matter, upon a unanimous vote of all the members present, there being a quorum, the committee has concluded that a violation of law, rule, or regulation of the House relating to the conduct of a House member within the jurisdiction of the committee has occurred. The committee found that there is substantial evidence that the violation has been proved, warranting imposition of one of the disciplinary actions listed in paragraph B, section 52, pursuant to section 41(7) of the committee rules. The sole issue, Madam Speaker, to be resolved is whether or not Respondent Barzaga flagrantly violated Section 141 of the Rules of House of Representatives when he posted several social media contents during the period of his suspension from office on December 1, 2025 to January 30, 2026, which ultimately constitutes disorderly behavior that reflect upon the House of Representatives. The complainant alleged that Respondent repeated the misconduct for which he was previously sanctioned and in fact escalated and intensified the unruly behavior to include vilification of a deceased colleague and defamatory imputations against colleagues and a private citizen through his official social media platform that mocked the name and honor of the House of Representatives. The complainant stressed that the defiant acts of Representative Barzaga, while suspended from office, clearly demonstrated that suspension from office as a disciplinary measure has failed, and that Rep. Barzaga's post-suspension conduct reflects his unfitness for legislative duties. All these, the complainant argues, warrant the imposition of further suspension and, if appropriate, the penalty of expulsion from office. We find basis in the arguments of the complainant. Respondent Barzaga has been sanctioned for previous misconduct, for disorderly behavior when he posted incendiary social media content and retained and failed to remove publicly viewable, inappropriate, and indecent photos in violation of Section 141A, Rule 20 of the House Rules and Section 4C of Republic Act 6713. The committee has issued Committee Report number 28 detailing its findings and recommendation as to these misconducts, which was adopted in its entirety by the House of Representatives on December 1, 2025. The committee's recommendation included a stern warning to Rep. Barzaga that a repetition of similar misconduct will result to a more severe disciplinary action. We agree with the complainant that the stern warning was made clearly and unequivocally and served as an express caution against repetition of similar...
Alam nyo, yung sinasabi dito sa comment section, totoo rin yan. No? Ang daming nagnanakaw, ang daming hindi pumapasok, ang daming corrupt, pero hindi sila natatanggal. Ito, binubuli nyo yung nerd. Kayo naman. Dahil nerd siya, binubuli nyo siya.
Misconduct. The period of suspension was made 60 days to afford Rep. Barzaga the time to pause and reflect upon his actions with a view to instill the institutional standards of decorum, propriety, and professionalism fitting for a legislative representative. At the very least, the committee expects Rep. Barzaga to have exercised restraint and prudence while suspended, demonstrated continued directive of the committee, escalating misconduct.
Call the roll of members. Number 1.
Other misconduct would warrant a more severe disciplinary action, including expulsion from office. Maraming salamat, Madam Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move to adopt the finding and recommendations contained in Committee Report number 102 and pursuant to our rules, direct the Secretary General to read the title of the measures and thereafter call the roll of members for nominal voting.
There is a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations contained in the Committee Report number 102. Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved. The Secretary General is hereby directed to call the roll of members for nominal voting. Is hereby notified that is suspended for a period of 3 hereby adopted. 10 against, 9 abstentions. Roll of members for nominal voting. Abstentions, 138 members voting in affirmative. With 238 members voting in affirmative, 10 against, 9 abstentions, the findings and recommendations contained in the Committee Report number 102 are hereby adopted. The Honorable Barzaga, who is present at this session hall, is hereby notified that is suspended for a period of 60 days, effective immediately.
Okay, anong reaction mo?
Some cite Congressman Avalos cited some grounds say
Yes.
yung allegation kay Representative Ako and then recent na cyberlabel case na denial kay Representative Ako. At least for you, do you stand on any of the allegations and social media posts that you did?
Stand on. Well, regarding the cyber libel case versus Puno, I believe I'll be filing my counter affidavit by 2nd or 3rd week of February. And yes. Well, what's exactly the question?
Yung kay Representative Ako po, na connection sa flood control scandal and
Sir, I don't know, sagutin ko na lang. So, do you regret anything that you said about Congressman Ako
If I
and
would-
your colleagues in general, given the additional suspension?
If I would ultimately regret it, then I would not have stated it in the first place. Every and all congressmen must be investigated for their involvement, since it does not only implicate one congressman, but rather the House as a whole. So therefore, the flood control applies to every congressman that was present during the time the budget was made.
So you don't regret it, Kong? No regrets?
I wouldn't have done it if I would have regretted it either way.
Kung wala kayong sama ng loob at yung gagawin nyo sa 60 days na suspension,
Sa sama ng loob, it's mixed because, well, ultimately, this is still pushing the issue away from the flood control, which is what we should prioritize first, and also the rampant corruption that we see within the government right now. And no matter how you change the way the budget is being allocated, if a percentage of the budget is still being stolen, then you cannot expect our economy or our nation to prosper.
kanina
Okay.
gusto nyo sana magsalita sa plenary, ano po sana yung sasabihin?
I would have stated, would you like me to make my speech now? Kasi or, medyo mahaba yun kasi
Just na lang po.
Di mahaba kasi 3 minutes lang naman yung maximum na binibigay sa mga gusto mag-explain on their votes, and there was only around 6 or 7 people who explained their vote. I would have stated that the vote, that's what I was saying now, it's a waste of taxpayer money. There are plenty of things that Congress should prioritize and plenty of bills that should be prioritized instead of these committee reports that ultimately serve no purpose. Firstly, the VAT abolition bill that I've proposed and that I've also filed, we need to remove the value-added tax system. It's a hindrance to the Filipino
Sabi ni Ronick, ginawang halimbawa si Kiko ng mga korap na kapag nagsalita ka laban sa corruption, ganyan mangyayari sa'yo. Correct. Kasi sobrang, puro korap na yung namumuno sa atin lahat eh.
people, and it's basically just every time na may transaction ka, makakita mo kung paano ka nanakawan ng gobyerno, and that's mostly that's a very big injustice that we can see in our day-to-day lives. And also all the other bills that I have filed, like the travel transparency law, travel transparency bill, which will mandate all representatives from the lower house to disclose whenever they have any foreign travel, so that we do not repeat the situation with Congressman Zaldico, former Congressman Zaldico.
For the next 60 days, kasi effectively, hindi yung suspension mo.
Play with my cats and dogs.
Maglalinaw po ba kayo sa social media?
Siguro maglaylo muna.
Kung yung speech kanina ni Kong Janet Gary na parang naaawa daw siya sa iyo and all. Ano masabi mo doon na parang she's saying na naaawa daw siya sa iyo as a mother?
I mean, it's very dramatic. Actually, mas mabuti kung maawa siya doon sa mga naapektuhan ng dingbak siya, because that's actually the mothers there face far more than whatever I'm facing now, because losing 2 months in Congress, or even losing my position, facing suspension or expulsion, these are very small compared to the problems that the average Filipino citizen face. And me, I can afford to lose my job here in Congress, but the average Filipino citizen, especially now when we're facing severe economic instability with plenty of issues regarding foreign investments, and also with our current diplomatic issue involving China and the possible problems involving our trade with China, if this diplomatic issue should escalate, it's going to be very hard for the average Filipino citizen. And I think that we should be more focused on putting our emotions should be more focused for them rather than people in Congress, because everyone here in Congress, we already have well-built lives. We can survive, and we can survive any of these types of issues. But the average Filipino
Yun ang kawawa, tayong mga Pilipino. Anyway, mga batas natin, narinig naman na natin lahat. And, well, as predicted, I told you, they will not give him the opportunity to make that privilege speech. Alam nyo kasi mga kabatas natin, no, kung ginawa yun na privilege speech, merong immunity yon from suit, from libel. Kasi nga, kapag ikaw ay nasa podium at gumagawa ng privilege speech, sabi nung batas natin, pwede kang maging matapang. Kaya, hindi ka pwedeng malibel doon, kasi nga, kung pwede kang makasuhan doon sa pagtayo mo sa podium, sa iyong privilege speech, hindi mo masasabi yung katotohanan. So, ano ang ginawa sa kanya? Ang ginawa sa kanya, sinuspindi ng diretso para hindi siya makapagsalita. Sinabi ko sa inyo yan eh. Well, I told you, this is just like a game of chess, and we just keep predicting what is happening, because basang-basa naman natin yung mga barahan nila at kung ano yung ginagawa nila. Diba? O ito, sunod tayo dito kasi si Jesus Falsis, tira ng tira sa mga Duterte tapos takot sa debate. Ano ba naman yan? Di pa tayo mga kabatas natin, at syempre sana huwag natin kalimutan yung mga pinaglalaban natin sa buhay. Huwag natin kalimutan yung mga taong korap, at huwag na natin iboto silang tunay sa susunod na eleksyon. Maraming salamat po, at syempre matulog po tayo na mahimbing, dahil alam natin na natutulog na mahimbing siya yung